Hello everyone and welcome to the second Keycode Media Broadcast to Post web series, where we educate and share with you the tech tools that make your workflow and creative process easier, with tools specifically designed for your needs. Now this month we're going to discuss how video over IP workflows can be leveraged today to create richer live video content at a quicker pace. We'll also show you a sneak peek into what will be available tomorrow. And we'll also check out real-world examples of live web content workflows enhanced and simplified through the use of video over IP for live productions. Before I forget, I'm Michael Kammes, Director of Technology here at Keycode Media, and I'll be joined by Kane Peterson, Senior Systems Engineer and Workflow Specialist at NewTek. Now, for those who don't know who Keycode Media is, or maybe you've just forgotten, Keycode Media is a tech solutions provider. We consult, sell, integrate, support, and now train on a vast majority of the production and post-production tools that you use on a daily basis. In fact, throughout our 6 offices and now over 60 employees, we've become the #1 dealer for NewTek here in the US, and we have been for several years. Keycode Media's real strength comes from our depth of understanding on a wide range of live production, post-production, and integration technologies. This allows you to optimize the best live or post-production workflow that meets your efficiency requirements as well as your budget. But it's not just the thing. It's not just a hardware or software solution. It's the services we offer around the thing. It's the post-install support by email, by phone, remotely, and of course on site. It's the ability to give feedback on your workflow as your needs change. To that end, Keycode Media also has a finance division, so when you do need to get some new technology, you have a one-stop shop to get you the financing you need so you can get the gear that, well, you need. Lastly, what good is selling you a car if you don't know how to drive? This is where Keycode Education comes into play. With courses surrounding the creative tools that you use every day, we can get you up to speed on the skills that you need to have a long career in the media industry. You can check out all of our classes at keycodeeducation.com. With that out of the way, let's do a quick level set. Today we'll be focusing heavily on NDI. NDI is a subset of video over IP. But what the heck is video over IP, and more importantly, why should you care? Well, for decades we've been mired in the baseband video world. One dedicated cable in and one dedicated cable out. Here are some examples: SDI and HDMI. And now with 4K content, we sometimes need 2 or 4 dedicated cables for in and the same amount for output. This is expensive, this is cumbersome, and quite frankly, this is the old way of doing things. Video over IP allows uncompressed video to be used over Ethernet cables. Yes, that same cable you use to connect to the internet can also be used to send and receive live video. Again, all on the same cable. And this is a standard, yes. SMPTE, the Society of Motion Picture Television Engineers, the folks that devise the way you make and consume media today, have ratified the standard. And while the standard is awesome, trust me, the SMPTE docs are simply thrilling, they surround the concept of uncompressed video. Now, as you probably remember from editing, uncompressed video is a massive file size. Now, due to this, uncompressed video is also hard to send around a traditional network. But just like in editing, do we need uncompressed video? No! And this is where NDI comes into play. NDI, or Network Device Interface, takes the video over IP methodology but makes the file size manageable to be usable on traditional networks. Think of it like ProRes or DNX HD or HR compared to the uncompressed video in SMPTE's video over IP standard. NDI also adds a host of other features like alpha channel, interlacer progressive scanning, multi-channel audio, tally, timecode, additional metadata, all with low latency. NDI has also been adopted by major computer platforms, I/O card manufacturers, and dozens of software companies. It's also been proven to work. In fact, Keycode Media just deployed an NDI-based solution for the Kentucky Farm Bureau, who was recently nominated for 10 Emmy Awards for their show Bluegrass and Backroads. You can see how the gear we integrated into their mobile fly pack, complete with a NewTek TriCaster and NDI PTZ cameras. You can read about the entire solution at Keycode Media's featured work, located at keycodemedia.com. Okay, enough from me. Now let's get to the nitty-gritty with Kane Peterson from NewTek. Now during Kane's demo, feel free to ask questions on Twitter or Facebook with the hashtag NewTekNDI. Kane, take it away.
Thank you, Michael. I want to start with a simple demonstration of NDI. I know not everybody out there has seen how NDI works, and so I just want to kind of show you how simple it is to get a device that's on your network inside another NDI application. So in my case here, I'm going to use a NewTek PTZ1 camera. I just want you to notice on the camera that I just have power and Ethernet connected, and that's it. You could make this camera run strictly over Ethernet if you had a PoE plus switch. I don't happen to have one, so in my case, I need to use the power that comes with it. But now that I have that on my network and have turned it on, we have a piece of software called NDI Studio Monitor. And using this software, I can go and see all the different NDI sources that are available out on the network and select one. So I'll select my PTZ camera, and in a few seconds you'll see the camera has appeared. Not only do I see it, but I can also control this camera from inside the software. I can select presets, zoom. There's even a button in here to open up the control panel for the camera, so I can get in and set deeper level settings in there if I needed to. So hopefully that kind of shows how simple NDI is to work with. It literally is putting devices on your network and selecting from a list of sources what you want to use. And if you think about all the devices out there now, almost everything's got an Ethernet port on it. You can see that connecting these things together through the network can be made very simple and allow you to expand your productions easily. Now we're going to take a look at some more NDI functionality in just a little bit here, but I want to also talk about some of the new production enhancements that we've added into our new TriCaster TC1 and VMC1 systems. We are shortly coming out with an enhancement called Premium Access. And Premium Access is going to add some brand new features into the system, and I'm going to highlight just a few of those in the next couple minutes here. The first is something called Live Graphics. Live graphics are like the title templates we've had in TriCaster before, where you can edit them last minute right during a show, but they happen to include things like full animation when they come on and go off the screen. Let me just play a few examples for you so you get a better idea. So you can see here's a graphic coming on the screen, it animates on. There can be multiple layers inside this graphic. So this one not only has a lower third configuration, but also has a configuration that includes a sidebar graphic. Here's another one, and not only is it intro and kind of outro animations, but you can have animation in the middle, so glints and other highlights or whatever you want your title to look like. The sample graphics included with the system do include not only kind of standard lower thirds and sidebars, but sports graphics with score bugs and stuff. And so you can see that this could really add a lot of impact to make your shows look more professional, give it that kind of branding style that people have been looking for. Now, to access and use these controls have been made very simple inside the system. You can go in and load one of your graphics in, and here are the different presets you can choose from. Each one can have up to 16 different layouts. So you can choose, do I want bugs or lower thirds, how are the sidebars, what things animate on or off. Everything you select in here will automatically be animated from one state to the other in the correct way it needs to happen, so that you don't see weird kind of glitches and stuff appear. It will be a nice smooth animation in there. So let me turn on just a lower third graphic, and you'll now see that that is appearing in the program out here. And then I can go edit this title just like I would edit any other title. Just click on here, change what you wanted to say, and now your title's been updated. So Live Graphics is a great new enhancement in the system. The last part of it is, how do you build these? Because while we do include some, you're obviously going to want to build your own. And that's one of the great parts about Live Graphics, is that we are not having you have to go learn necessarily a brand new tool. If you already know how to use the Adobe Creative Cloud suite of applications, you know what you need to build Live Graphics. Let me show you. So here is my computer running Adobe After Effects, and I happen to have one of the sample live graphics in here, so you can see as I animate it in and animate it out how it animates on the screen. It's already got some preset title information on it. But once I've built this, and all I got to do is put markers that kind of show here's from the intro to the middle portion of the animation, and then from the end of the animation out. That's all these markers represent. I can then go into our plugin that we include to export these out as live graphics templates. And at this point, these templates will come into the system. They will be live, playable graphics graphics inside the TriCaster that you can still edit up to the last second and use inside your productions.
Now, Kane, what would be a typical setup to use live graphics during a live production?
That's a good question. Live graphics runs completely inside the TriCaster for playout, so you don't need anything extra to use them. You do have to create them in Adobe applications, but once they're created, nothing else is needed to make them work inside the TriCaster. Now, one thing you might want to use is some methods to trigger or control these titles, and I'm going to show you that in the next section coming up here, which is a feature called Live Panel. So let's take a look. So here is Live Panel. Live Panel is a web-based application that could run on a PC or a Mac, or even a tablet like an Android or an iOS device. Basically something that has a web browser. In it, we have multiple functions we can choose from. So we happen to include an audio mixer, so I can, from another device now, control the audio levels of a TriCaster system. There is a media player controller, and I can go in and go to any of the DDRs or still store players, rearrange clips, add clips, trim clips, manually play back the clips if I wanted to. There's also a switcher panel, and this will allow me to switch the TriCaster from another device. And another thing also included is a scoreboard tool, and this will let me go in and control clocks and scores and different functionalities from in here. But I think the most powerful tool out of all of them is the Builder application. This will let you go in and build your own custom interfaces that can do basically anything you want. So I'm going to show you two examples of ones I built. This first one will allow me to bring titles on using live graphics. So I can trigger it on and then trigger it off when I'm ready. I've also built a button here to update that title so I can bring it in with more information on it afterwards and then bring it back off. So that's one example of something I built. And I can go into another one. And in this case, I've built a PTZ control application. So there's that PTZ camera we were just using earlier. I can go in here and select a PTZ preset, just like I could from the studio monitor interface or even from inside the TriCaster. But I've also built some nudging controls in here. So I realized that this preset's not quite right for me. I can go in here and move that camera back down, zoom it back in. So even if I moved a little bit, I've got some controls in here to kind of fix that preset after the fact. So hopefully you can see that Live Panel can add a lot of additional capability either to the main operator or even to a group of operators who might be working on a production together.
Kane, as a side note, with PTZ cameras, would you recommend a hardware interface over a software one to control the cameras? And if so, how many cameras could one person realistically handle?
That's a great question, and the answer really is going to kind of vary based upon the production. If it's just a couple of cameras, you're mainly going to be using presets, then I think potentially from the TriCaster or certainly Live Panel could be a great way to handle that. But if there's a lot of motion, you need to be following people around, then a hardware control panel really is going to be the best solution. Let's take a look at one more premium access feature, which is NDI KVM. Using NewTek Studio Monitor, I can go in and pull up the user interface of my TriCaster system or VMC system and get a full frame rate view of what's going on, just like any other NDI source. But not only can I see it, I can also now control it as well. So I can go in here and click any of the buttons or the menus of the system and truly run the system like I was locally connected to it using the keyboard and mouse. So this is a great way to make the system available anywhere on your network that you might want to access it. When we think of remote production, we typically think of bringing cameras in from a remote location into the control room so that I can work with them. But this also now flips that around the other way, where the control room itself could be anywhere on the network, allowing you to do your production from that location.
Now, Kane, do you need a high-end network switch or even a separate network just for NDI traffic?
Well, the answer to that, of course, can vary depending upon exactly what your needs are. For a very small production, even an unmanaged gigabit switch could work. But certainly for anything that I think most people will be looking to build, you probably are going to want a managed switch because you're, besides NDI running on it, you might have other functions, and those other functions in the network might require specific features. Things you might want to look for in particular for a switch for NDI is, of course, besides it having enough ports for your needs, is making sure it's a full speed backplane switch so it can handle all the bandwidth that you would push through it. Potentially PoE Plus if you plan on hooking up devices that you want to power right off the switch. And there is a feature in NDI called multicast, where we can send the same stream to multiple destinations. That does require a feature called IGMP snooping. So those are things you might look for. As for the network being separate or using an existing one, a separate network is always, of course, the easiest way to go because it's separate. You can kind of build what you need. But if it is an existing network, as long as you have control over that network and you can kind of, if you need to open up ports or set things on it to make NDI work, then there's no reason it shouldn't. But let's talk a little bit about NDI 3.5. This is a new version of the protocol that NewTek released just a little over a month ago. And this new version includes some performance enhancements and a new method of transfer that can work better over very long distance connections, like across country, maybe even across the world. But we also, with that, released a set of free tools called NDI tools, and I highly recommend everybody watching this should go download these tools and start trying them out and really experimenting with NDI. I'm just going to highlight a few of these tools in particular, the first being NDI scan converter. So if you think about trying to get a computer screen into a video environment, it can sometimes be difficult. Computers can run at video resolutions, often much higher resolution than what typical video runs at frame rates that aren't standard video frame rates. You might need scalers. A good converter can be very expensive. NDI scan converter kind of solves all those issues as just a little software plugin that you would install on a PC or a Mac and then let you view those computers right inside of your production. So let me show you a quick example of that. I'm going to go over, here is my desktop of my computer, and let's show something that's a little more impactful. I'm going to bring up a game, and I'll even turn on the audio so you can hear the audio from the game playing in here. And just, not that I want to play a game in front of you, but just to show you that I can play the game and I'm getting full frame rate. Everything's nice and smooth. There's the sound and everything coming right off my computer. So if you're trying to do any kind of esports, or you're trying to bring in a PowerPoint or a computer application or a video that it might be playing, this could be a great way to accomplish that.
Now, are there any resolution or frame rate constraints with NDI, especially with things like gaming, where high frame rates and higher resolution is pretty crucial?
NDI is resolution independent, but obviously we still work in a world of video resolution, so they're still good to have some controls on that. And NDI scan converter does a really nice job in the sense that no matter what the refresh rate of your monitor is, you have the ability to set what the output frame rate is. So you could be running a 144 hertz display, let's say, and still get a 5994 signal off that computer desktop. And that will be clean with no tearing in it. And of course, the video resolution will be whatever session resolution you're running inside your system. On the flip side of that, NDI is resolution independent as a protocol. So whatever the future might hold for new resolutions and new frame rates, NDI is going to be able to adapt and work with that. Now, to continue on with the next NDI tool, let's take a look at NDI Studio Monitor. This is probably the most popular NDI tool included in the set. And we saw this already at the very beginning, where we were controlling our PTZ camera, where we could remotely select sources in here. But another new feature that's been added to it is remote control. And you'll see at the bottom of the monitor interface, there's an IP address displayed. If you type that in to a web browser, you will get this remote control interface, and I can go in here now and tell it through this web browser what source to view. So I just told it to display my PTZ camera, and this is great if I happen to have displays that are difficult to get to. I can just remotely control them and tell them what to display, or even kind of give me centralized control where I might have multiple displays and I need to change what they're displaying throughout the day. I can just, from this one web interface, select them and choose what's going to be displayed on them. Another tool that's been added is NDI Virtual Input. This is actually a very powerful application that will allow you to take an NDI feed and convert it into what looks like a webcam. If you think about it, there's a whole bunch of software available on the PC that takes a webcam for input, like Skype, Google Hangouts, WebEx, GoToMeeting, that you might want to pipe video into, but it's unclear if those applications will get NDI support anytime in the near future. Using this application, I can now make those applications accept an NDI feed, even though they just think they're getting a webcam. Let me show you really quickly how it works. So here is a Skype client I'm running on my computer, and if I go into my audio video settings in here, you'll see that there is a webcam that appears called NewTek NDI Video. When it's installed, I would just select that as my video source, and same thing, I would select under the microphone my NewTek audio as the audio source, and now this application is receiving video and audio from my production, and I can continue to work with it just like I normally would. Let's take a look at one of the new Macintosh tools that's been included in 3.5, and that is NDI Access Manager. NDI Access Manager allows you to control your NDI network. You can set up groups and remote sources. That way you can choose what devices are able to see what other devices on the network. Let's take a quick look. So here's my Macintosh, and just to start with, I'm going to open up Video Monitor here, and you'll see that in my VMC there is no user interface option that was showing up like I saw on my PC just earlier. That happens to be because this Mac has not been added to that group yet. So let's quickly go do that, and I can go in and add it to the group so it can see it. I can also set up remote sources that might be on other networks, or set up my multicast settings if I'm taking advantage of that functionality. But now, when I go back into Video Monitor, you'll see in my VMC, because I'm part of the group, the user interface is now available. I can select it, and now I can see the interface of my TriCaster or VMC system over the network. And that's how NDI Access Manager can help you control your NDI network.
Wow, thanks Kane for all the great insight. Now we're transitioning to Q&A. If you haven't submitted your questions already, do so now using the hashtag NewTekNDI on Twitter, or comment on the Facebook or YouTube stream. Matt McLean, our Director of Marketing, will be leading the Q&A shortly. Now, while everyone is submitting questions, we're going to take this quick commercial break. Enjoy the teaser trailer for these 3 great add-on products for any live production workflow.
Quiet on set, we're on.
Famous restaurateur Gordon Ramsay is opening a new restaurant in New York City. Yell's is set to open this winter, specializing in American fusion cuisine.
Wow, what a beautiful goal by Belgium here. I mean, we are really seeing the offensive potential. Wait, no, you got the score wrong. Belgium scored, not Brazil. Wait, that's not even the Belgium flag. That's Germany. Germany's not even playing. Wait.
Hey, can you reach over and grab a drive for me?
Ha! There we go.
I need a cable, genius.